I'm everywhere.
I know. I didn't. Hey, yo, everybody. We're live with Ashes of Creation discussion round. It's just me and Stackerson again. BCG has some IRL stuff going on. Everybody knows this. Been following the show for like the last couple of months. This week we actually have topics to talk about though. We have new cosmetics, which we're gonna go ahead and blaze through because no one's here for that today. Everyone wants to go ahead and talk about the 24-hour live stream, and then we have a theory craft. And then if we get through that today, and we still have time, we have a theory crafty kind of like discussion that we continued on from last week. That we would do that we both really want to talk about too. So
Cosmetics.
Cosmetics. This month's cosmetics are Nakua themed. How do you feel about them overall?
Well, I'm really excited for one of them.
One of them.
Yeah, it kind of overshadows the other ones, and they're like, oh, they're cool.
I think I know. I think I know which one you're talking.
Anyone who follows knows which one I'm excited about.
Okay, we'll go through them. Necklace.
Necklace. It's a neat little necklace.
Yeah, it's a neat little necklace. I'm not big on jewelry pieces. Like the accessory pieces are cool sometimes. Jewelry ones like rings. Like when they do a ring, it really like I'm very like, I wish jewelry pieces were sold as like a set, where you had like a ring, a necklace, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I can get that.
If it didn't affect or something, I would understand more about it.
It's gonna be interesting because I mean, some games show jewelry, like Final Fantasy does it, and I can't think of any others. I know there's others. BDO.
Yeah, you can see like you can see individual jewelry pieces on people, but like how much those stand out and like if they're like actually like unique pieces, debatable.
Yeah.
Next up, the pet. I'm not a big fan of the more humanoid, like golem-y, elementally pets. This one's neat. I like the kind of like idea they go with it. It looks like it has a chubby belly, and I'm not like if it didn't have the legs and it was just like technically little like
It almost looks like a water trench coat. That's kind of the vibes I'm getting from it. Maybe it's supposed to be like a watery dress.
I think it's supposed to be like a fucking hula skirt.
Oh, or that.
Yeah,
Has a little fish inside their belly.
Yeah, it's like little. It's a water elemental with like a little fish inside of its belly, which is really cool. If it didn't have the legs, I would like it more. Or if it didn't look like it was fat, like it had like a little chubby belly.
Cute little chubster.
I like the idea of it. I'm not big on the whole like humanoid pets thing.
Yeah, I think it's a cool looking pet. These are weird for me because I feel like it's hard to make them, like the pets, hard to make them work with certain sets, or at least not the sets I like to wear. Because I guess I'm kind of like normal emo goth, heavy armor, big sword style, so these don't really go with my look. But looks like a good pet.
Like animal ones are easier to do for that. Like I'm with you a lot. Like the more heavy armor set stuff, like the cutesy little like even with cutesy animals, you can kind of make them work. But with cutesy like little golem creatures, like little like mushroom people, or like just.
I guess with this one, it's like you'd almost want your character to have some affinity for water to justify them having like this little water elemental, or at least that's how I see it in my own head.
Yeah, 100%. You'd want to be like a mage or like so, like have something magical about them where they would like you like, oh, I have mastery over the elements at least.
Yeah.
The one I think you're the most excited for, the mount.
Yep, the salt spine. He's beautiful.
I saw this and I was like, this is Stackerson's kind of mount. But at the same time, it's a fat fucking lizard.
Yeah. Mount's beautiful. Love it. I want to talk about that more. The only thing that I think is a little odd about it is where its legs are. Its legs are positioned in the middle of the body, where like that's where they connect. Where normally with I think most animals and especially lizards, they have their legs at the base of their torso, so that's where their shoulder would be.
I don't know about iguana, but I'm looking at my
Nope,
bearded
iguanas
dragon.
do too. I,
Yeah,
I was debating like should I bring my tegu on and show off where his legs are? Because yeah, he's also has like a big body, but his legs are at the bottom of the that body.
but alright, so like, is this
Or
because
start at the base.
I totally see what you're saying. Like his appendages are like literally in the middle of his fucking body, or is that because he's fat?
And it's dragon. Yeah, that I don't know. I'm used to seeing like the legs starting at the bottom.
Yeah,
And so yeah, it could just be that his chub is hanging down. Um but yeah, it's just like it's another mount that gets me super excited for what Tolnar can be, and it's beautiful. The scales, like I like what they did with the jowls of the iguana, how they put like a spike coming out of that big scale they normally have there. Uh, the frill,
yeah.
cool touch. I think just the head is beautiful though, and it's just complemented by the spines on the top and just the head structure. I love that. Yeah, I love this mount. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Do now lizards have spots? I own a fucking lizard. No, they have spots, but like
Well, those look like more painted on spots, but yeah, I mean they
they're
could
like
have spots
pink.
like
They're
that.
pink polka dots.
Yeah,
Uh,
it could be a weird adaptation for like a male or something like that. I feel like you could easily rationalize anything like that on
uh,
especially a lizard.
after the Joker Raptors, I'm very hesitant for like neon colored spots on fucking the albino green haired fucking with green polka dot like it's a joke. It's a raptor. Like they reskinned the raptor to be a Joker, like Joker colors.
I'm not getting this reference.
In Ashes of Creation, there's literally raptors that are Joker, like Joker colors.
Oh, I see it. Yes, yes. They're like the yes.
So like I don't know.
I know. That's like
I love the iguana theme.
yeah.
It's it's a big fat iguana. I love it. Question like if this is like all the mounts we've gotten so far are one seaters. I can definitely see this being like a two seater or more.
Yeah. I assume it's probably just a one-seater. It's going to use the
Yeah,
same rig as the scale runner and that other one.
I don't think it could use the same kind of skeleton and animation. Like maybe the anime, like maybe.
I think they'll fit it to it. I mean, I don't I imagine it won't be exactly like this, but I imagine when they make this, they had the scale runners um,
Skeleton animation.
skeleton in mind.
You can see that with the flail with the flail tail, but I don't see it with this with the salt spine.
We'll see.
We will have to see.
Yeah,
I
I
think it'll
think that
have its.
rig also needs like a slight updating. Like I don't know. I don't know if it. I think it could have do with another pass to clean it up and make it a little bit more
Moving
lizard-like.
on to the arm. Not my favorite armor we've gotten so.
This I like. It's one of those ones that it doesn't stand out, but I think like a lot of what's there, like I like the hood. I like the kind of
I think
skirt that's open in the front around the waist.
I could definitely see it for. I could definitely see it. I think I would like it better without the hood, actually.
Mm. I imagine you could hide it. I don't want to say that, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I'm iffy. Like I don't understand. Like sometimes I ask if, hey, you can hide the helmet on this one, like what it would look like with the helmet gone, because there are some, and then like sometimes they'll tell us that like, oh, you can't hide the helmet on that. Like the big helmet with the big armor with
You've
the.
frozen on my Discord,
Am I? You're moving
but
and
you
I'm.
seem to be still talking on the stream.
You hear me? I'm gonna say you can't hear me.
Let me unmute the stream. Yeah, I can't hear you on the stream. I mean, I can hear you on the stream. I can't hear you on Discord.
Me kind of disconnecting. Me thing or was it a Stackerson thing?
Hello.
Was it a me thing or was it a you thing?
Maybe it was like a both of us thing because it was weird that I like.
Like it could have.
We could communicate technically through the stream. I could hear you on the stream, and like you were getting me.
Yeah. Okay. Armor looks nice. Like it's not my favorite armor we've gotten so far. I'm more like it definitely is a. I would say probably more a rogue set or like a medium armor set than it is like magey or heavy armor. It's definitely not heavy armor.
Yeah,
I can maybe see it on a mage.
I could see this on both mage or rogue
Um,
or a hunter.
there are definitely
Medium
elements.
armored class.
There are definitely elements of it that I like. I think I would definitely prefer it without the hood on a character.
Okay,
You got any last words on this one?
I do not.
Then we got the caravan, and when we first saw this, I was like, "What even is the animal pulling it?" It's like a deer thing,
It's like a
like a hamster with antlers.
yeah. I mean, it has like the body of like a cow,
Very much so.
and then the head from
A
my
guinea pig or
picture
something.
almost reminds me of like a dog, and then it has, but no, it's almost like a no. I don't know if a taper is right. I don't know what I want to call it.
A taper,
It's interesting,
yeah.
and then it has the antlers, which are pretty cool. Because I think tapers are more like they have longer noses, but it's still like the overall like shape of the head kind of
Yeah,
reminds me of a taper. But yeah,
totally get that.
yeah, it's different, which is good for variety.
I get
Not
more
my
of a
preference, but good.
I get more of a spring kind of feeling from this set rather than a fall November set, like a November feeling.
Because of the colors and like everything seems to be in bloom. I get that.
Yeah, like it's very like summer water Nakua themed. Like you kind of think like Iron Island stuff, like kind of warm weather. Uh, Freehold, last one. I am. It doesn't show a background, which I kind of like that they didn't do this time. It's just showing off the house itself.
Yeah, I feel like when they do some stuff like this that I worry is like because of us. I feel like an asshole.
You
Because I'm
think
like,
it's because
I
we
didn't mean to
complain-
change. I was just critiquing it. But yeah, this one, because yeah, if they showed the background, then we would be on a fucking 15-minute rant about, is this actually going to make everything water? And yeah, we know because it looks like docks. So if they had put this in its normal area, it would have water under it.
You just see this. Like there are houses that lift up off the ground, like everywhere. Like there's tons of those right around the world. Some places you have to watch out for animals underneath your house and stuff like that because they'll take shade underneath them. Um, I can definitely see a like it I could 100 like it's meant to be on more of a coastal area, but I could definitely see you kind of like drag like it being more into the woods or something like that, or like wherever you put this, and you dragging your boat, and just like getting it off the ground, you hoist it up on that winch thing. It doesn't have like I
Yeah, I
don't
get
know.
what you're
I
saying.
don't.
It
I
doesn't
don't.
have to be over water.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be over water. And I don't know if I agree with. I don't know if it's this thought process is just like natural. I would think this either way, or if it's because they didn't put the background in. I much prefer no background because you just get the freehold.
Yeah, you just, and I guess, yeah, that's better, for the reason you just said. Um, understand what it is. Yeah, and no, I mean, you're right. This could be on like a sand that has like is next to a tide area, or a beach next to a tide area where the tide rises, and so you want some elevation. And I think it could be put anywhere, but it's pretty cool. I don't think we have something like this, so another like variety. Yay. And as far as like a house goes, it kind of has a cool design. Like you got that upstairs.
Definitely
Your
keeping
room.
with like the like looking at all of them now. I'm definitely noticing a kind of like a blue and pink color theme with all of them that I didn't notice before.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, because yeah, the headpiece. I mean
I get the blue from the water stuff, and so like the necklace is like that kind of like turquoisey.
the living wave has the coral that brings the pink in.
Yep.
The lizard has the pink spots,
Mm.
and then also like the red um cloth along its back, and
The red barding.
yeah, and then less pink. I mean, there's pink around the belly of
That's
this
what
other
yeah
one,
yeah the
and the
belt,
blue.
yeah, the belt and the blue. The belt has the blue and the pink.
Yeah, no, it's a good looking set.
I definitely like the freehold. Like overall, I don't see myself actually like using a whole hell of a lot from this set. I definitely like the direction they went. Well, I like the freehold skin. The pet I'm iffy on. Not a big fan of the caravan skin. I'm sure it's for somebody. Not like I have a bunch of other ones that I would probably be much more using. The mount is a cool, gigantic, fucking fat lizard.
I love it. It's beautiful.
I'd probably say the things that like dominate this set are probably the mount and the freehold skin for me.
Yeah, the mount is just an overwhelming thing for me. It's like I feel like I just need to buy the other ones just to be so happy because I'm so happy about the mount, just to support them because it's beautiful.
We got the scale runner with another Nakua set, right?
No, we got the scale runner with that desert set. It was like 2 or 3 Septembers ago.
Oh yeah.
It was the one with the lightning bird. I'm pretty
It
sure.
no, it wasn't the one with the lightning
Oh
bird.
no,
Yeah, that was the lightning bird was the mount on that one. I remember now. Both me and you thought like I don't know if it was you and me or me and BCG, but we said like it probably would have like a flying carpet would have made more sense. That set.
yeah, I think they've showed the 3D renders of the costume from that set recently. I think that's it. It's the more Middle Eastern themed cosmetic. But yeah, yep.
All
That's all.
right, moving on to the 24-hour live stream. We're gonna have it playing on the background. So right off the bat they raised for this 24-hour live stream this year they raised $31,000 301 $31,301. They reached their goal. Like they hit all their milestones. They reached their goal. The goal was only 25,000 this year. Not as much as last year, but more than the years prior, I believe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last year was off the cuff of the big peon drop, which brought in a lot of people.
Oh yeah, we got a big insurgence of people. I totally forgot like Peon Video and Asmongold both like came in last year, and that's why we had like that big insurgence of people. I totally forgot about that's why last year was so probably. At least last year they raised like $88,546. The year before that was only 20,901. The year before that was 20,500. And the first year they did it was 16,500. Yeah.
I saw the lore bits, and that's what we're going to talk about, but I wasn't able to be that present for the live stream.
I had it on, but I was definitely doing other things. Like 24 hours. Like I'll be there. I'll donate. I'll be in support of it. And like I love D&D. I love every year when they do this. I wish they would do more D&D streams. I love just like I love interacting with them. They're very interactive with the community. They're in the Discord all the time. It's super fun to like just like see them interact and stuff like that. And they do like Ashes is based on like a bunch of D&D stuff anyway, so I like in Pathfinder.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I wish they did more. I kind of wish they did more of these things. Like, they're busy. There's been talk of them doing it in the past, but they're busy. They're extremely busy developing the game and stuff like that. I understand why they don't do it. Maybe in the future.
Well, lore bits.
Lore bits. So the first lore bit, for anybody that didn't see it, there's like I can give you like timestamps. Like the first one was at 4 hours and 50 minutes, give or take.
I'll just link the.
Yeah, like if you want, you can go over to the Ash Creation Wiki YouTube, and they've already like clipped them and put them out on their YouTube for reference on the wiki. The first one is just like there's definitely interesting lore bits that we're gonna talk to you, but like really like starting off,
we're introduced to the character. We find out elves are OP and live for hundreds of years.
That's a giant. So I do want to talk about that, but that wasn't how I wanted to start it off. They do.
I guess the big thing is I mean, we knew that the necromancer guy attracted the ancients, but I didn't know it was like the actual ancients that it was the ancients themselves that launched the attack. Not, I thought it was like the exiled gods that told the ancients to do it. I didn't know it was like the ancients who were like just pissed off hanging in the void, and maybe that's just because I missed it.
Yeah, so like the cool thing about so before we get into the lore thing, the cool thing is that like this is an actual storybook that you'll get inside the world. These supposed to be like at each of the starting zones. I really like how they did it in this. Margaret was the one, like they did like a storybook kind of like actual like graphic and a video, and Margaret was reading it like, and it sounded like how you would like someone reading, like doing an audiobook reading, or like you're wanting, it's like someone trying to read a story to you, like that she was doing the voices and stuff like that, like how you would read a book to somebody, or like you would do like you were doing if you were doing an audiobook record.
Yeah.
And then the first one starts off is just a retelling of the kind of the information we learned in last year's lore dump, and then we get introduced to.
Let's just do one at a time. Let's start with the first one.
The first character we get introduced to?
No, just the first audiobook. Just go back over it. Because I didn't just talk about what we learned from it.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. So we get introduced to the author of this book, which it's all like being told through the perspective of somebody. This is like their first time going through the world. This is what the book is, that they're going through Ashes. They're going through Vera for the first time. Their first experiences with stuff. And her name is Kira Patrick, and I don't know, some fucking elf.
I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Kira Patrika Arizona. It's a fucking elf name. I don't like it. It's a long. It's a three. She has three words in her name. Like her first name is like two names, and then she has a last name. That's a family name. She's the writer of the book. She's an 863-year elf by the time she's writing this book. It's suggested that she's an Empyrean. And supposedly, so the lore bit that she reads at the very beginning, so she's writing this book, and the lore bit that she reads off at the very beginning is from another. It's a reference from another book, like a historical book of, hey, my grandmother wrote this book. My great great grandmother, it's a great great grandmother, wrote this book 4,000 years ago. Of like just recounting the tales of what like the stories of what happened. So we're introduced to at least five, I believe it's 5 generations of this family.
Of her family?
Yeah, it's because it's her great great grandmother that's telling the
No, I
story.
think it's just her great because it's like through the stories told to me by her daughter, which was my grandmother. So it might have just been her great grandmother who.
I believe it says when it introduces her, like says 4,000 years ago, this was my great great grandmother.
Oh, you're right. It's by my great great mother, Minerva Arisana.
Yeah, and she was a Purian elf. So right off the bat, the kind of question is: so elves are long lived. It's already suggested that she says she says she's 863 years old, and she's reading her midlife. So we can expect that they live somewhere between like 1600 to 2,000 years of age, give or take. How long do you think it takes to form separate cultures? Because it's insinuated that she's an Empyrean, and you still have the Piri.
So here, I think it's kind of brought up here, and probably why they fractured was this is me completely bullshitting, but she talks about how when maybe this isn't a later one when
That's
she's
in the third
talking
one.
about the dwarves,
I not yeah.
but I'd have to bring it up now. We learn later on that elves struggled a little bit when they went back over because a lot of their stuff revolved around magic. So considering the Pyri are like the nature people, I could see them like one elf when they were having the struggle, one elf society tried to kind of stick to their original values and another one embraced nature to try to solve their crisis when they ran into those issues.
I agree. Like I think war is definitely the reason that the races split up into the to the 8 races that that were introduced to later on. I think war for resources like just for basic survival and stuff like that is why they split up. But so but even still, that's like 5 generations.
Yeah, I mean, you'd still kind of have some familiarity with the people on the other side.
You still have
But I
some.
mean, 5 generations. I feel like at this point it's enough of a separation where you wouldn't really know them. But for a while there, I imagine it was like, hello.
And throughout your life,
brother,
you're change.
cousin.
You can change, in terms of like your culture and stuff. Like cultures can change throughout your own lifetime. Quite a bit. Like not like drastically. But throughout like an elf's lifetime, I thought like 2,000 years of time frame definitely could fracture, and you could definitely see like cultures could definitely fracture. But in terms of like racials, like if you're like a genetic kind of trait, I don't see that kind of like
forming. Yeah, I think the racial component would be less genetic and more cultural.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's not necessarily they're genetically different, it's more culturally the Pyri do things this way that gives them this benefit.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. First book, definitely the takeaway is like lore wise. If you're looking for like big lore bits, the first one is for the big takeaway is that we get introduced to elven ages, and the introduction that like throughout elven time frames, this has only been like 5 generations worth of time, worth of things. And the light pack is still around. Like we get told that the light pack is still getting ready to go back to the world of Era, and they're still around and kicking.
Yeah, the ones that the scribes.
Yeah, I guess they kind of took on more of a scribey kind of role, and it's like instead of like their knights for good kind of thing, like keeping the
I guess
the
you need to go
history.
back over the night pack because one, I don't even remember really what they were. So we should probably talk about.
All right, so the light pack was a unification of the races to fight against against the apocalypse. So it's like all 4 of the races joined together to fight the apocalypse. That's kind of what like the light pack was. And so I guess after the fall, they kind of like became more historians, keeping the history of Vera and Sanctus kind of going.
Okay, so that's probably kind of one of the reasons we're probably going to know about Essence and have like a little jump start in using it.
I want to get to that, but we'll get to that in the third. Well, when we get to the third one, or maybe we'll get
Okay.
to the maybe we'll get into in this part 2, which we'll go into now. So part 2 told for like the whole book is told from the perspective of this elf girl, this 863-year-old elf woman. She was lived in Sanctus her whole life. She's going to Vera, and she's exploring. But so like supposedly they have been here for a good bit, and we get more of this like in the third one. But like they've been here for a good little bit. She's talking to. We get introduced to a new character, a Vec, alchemist and inventor. When you think alchemist, do you think more magical, or do you think like a scientist that kind of
Scientific.
You think scientific? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of like how like in kind of like if you're in Sanctus that has no magic, how are you kind of like an alchemist? But I could definitely see like if you're kind of like a steampunky kind of alchemist, you're doing more scientific kind of things. And he's
Or just
introduced.
like our like idea of an alchemist would be a scientific one. Have we ever considered people alchemists?
We have alchemists in history, but they
Yeah.
were like
Were they leveraging powers beyond us?
no, they were trying. I guess they were kind of trying to discover like a different kind of science. They were still scientists to a degree, but like they were trying to like do like roundabout different like different kind of thing.
Okay.
It's still a science, but it's a different kind of science.
Which I mean, so yeah, it makes sense that he, as an alchemist, I guess it sounds like alchemy is kind of like what we see in games where it's like
Potion brewing, like mixing
yes,
herbs
I was
and
trying to
stuff
think
like
of
that. Yeah.
is that like a pharmacist?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right thing,
No,
but
you're 100% right. Like a pharmacist, and it's explained almost like how a bunch of our pharmaceutical advancements in science happened. So we get introduced to this orc, this famous orc alchemist and inventor that this elf woman's talking to, and he pulls her into the tent, and we get introduced to this 5-year-old. We get introduced to a 5-year-old Tolnar named Tish. She's explained to be smelling and tasting all these ingredients, and she has a knack for alchemy. You don't really like get explained because she's supposedly in like the shadows and stuff like that.
yeah, I think that was a funny touch where they're like, we don't want to say anything like strictly. They don't want to define her yet, so they're like they kept it very vague. Like, did she? At one point, she bats away the elf's hand, and I was like, was it with Tish's hand? Was it with her tail? Because she doesn't know what kind of appendage it was.
So here's a few things. It's like people are gonna see this and think, oh, Tolnar have a affinity for possibly have an affinity for alchemy. They've already said that in terms of artisan classes, none of the races have like an artisan class affinity. Like none of them have anything that make them better at crafting or processing or gathering. They've said that in the past. Now they could go back and change that. That was like that's all like alpha, pre-alpha kind of like information. But I'm still going off of that, so I'm gonna go ahead and say they don't have any kind of like alchemical
Advantage.
affinities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
But
it, and it's also kind of explained that she's a prodigy, and um, part of it has the reason why she's good isn't necessarily like uh they're born good at this. It's because she's resilient to things that are normally poisonous to people, which that would be like a normal racial thing, is that
yeah,
resilience.
poison immunity was what I was gonna say. I was gonna more say
And
is
she
like
uses that to become good at alchemy. It isn't necessarily that she's a Tolnar makes her good at alchemy. It's just she just is a prodigy who eats things and it's like, oh, this goes good this thing when I eat it.
now they left it vague here because they said they don't know if it's a racial trait or a family trait, but they do. But he does realize that Tolnar, he has observed other members eating toxic things or spoiled meats and stuff like that. Um, so you could definitely probably assume they're very lightly hinting at it, and they're keeping it vague on purpose, I think. But you can assume that Tolnar have a poison immunity.
Yeah, or at least one of the branches does, because there's Tolnar is supposed to have that whole caste system
Yep.
where descendants of certain races are supposed to be like positioned differently in it.
Yep.
So that could be, and that's what I kind of got from his comment about that, where it could be like, yeah, she's a descendant of something reptilian or mammalian that makes her more resilient to these things.
The entire time they were talking about her and explaining her, I was thinking like an anthropomorphic pangolin or like an anteater.
One thing I thought was neat was she used like Hajo, and wasn't that supposed to be old Orcish language?
It's a mix between and I opened up so I did a little throwback to that because I opened up the podcast saying Hajo. It's a mix between common, which is like in every game, common is just English. So you have the common hello and the old Orcish
Vajo.
Vajo, which means no harm. Yeah.
So that's an interesting touch where like it'll be interesting if it'll be just like sex, like it'll be like the caste system where like people in different castes, like families have used different languages based off their descendants, or if it's going to be just like a common language that has taken inspiration from all these different places.
When we talked to Steven, like when in the interview, I kind of asked this, is like, he kind of like just, I mean, it's always been this case, is like the Tolnar as a whole are just like this mix of all these different cultures. Like the culture itself is just a hodgepodge of all the different cultures that like survived. So I don't
So
think
it's probably unified,
yeah,
but
it's
it
probably
just like in this instance they took a word from Orcish. There could be other words that they
mhm.
use that are inspiration that are taken from like Elven or Dwarven. Okay.
You could also probably assume because like some of these other characters have like long names, and another assumption because her name is Tish, you could probably assume that Tolnar have short, simple names, or at least her cast of Tolnar. Because you're right that like the Tolnar have a caste system. That's how they've been explained, based on like your heritage and what you look like. If you're like more animalistic or reptilian, then you're of a lower class than the more humanoid looking one. A lot of assumptions to be made here. Kish, short names, the Tol like really our first introduction to a Tolnar in terms of lore. Meeting up with a Tolnar.
Yeah. It's also cool just to like know that it was something that like we weren't quite sure how it was going to go down, and it's just, yeah, everyone's on the other side of the portal and getting along to some degree.
You have an elf, you have an orc, and she hasn't seen or encountered a Tolnar yet, but he's, I guess, taken a Tolnar in as an apprentice. or trying to study the Tolnar, like get to know the Tolnar more. Yeah. So not everyone's aware of the Tolnar, but like you could definitely get like, I don't know if it suggests that both of them are part of the Light Pack, that's why they get along, or if all the races are just getting along here on Bara. But you know, a Vec Orc and an Empyrean Elf getting along, and they're both like this is the Empyrean Elf's first time seeing the Tolnar. On to the third one, which kind of raises a bunch of questions for me on like the third one raised a lot of questions for me. The third one, she's in the forest, just kind of like minding her own business. Then she observes a creature, and this creature, and she kind of startles it. It literally disappears into the it like vanishes into it turns itself into essence and just vanishes. She encounters this dwarf, a Dunir dwarf, has this conversation with him. Telegi, like the dwarf calls the elf a Telegi, which you can kind of like assume is slang, like a slang word for an offensive slang word for an Empyrean elf, because supposedly like their Empyrean glitter wall formation failed during the early days of like war in Sanctus. That raises a big flag for me because like Sanctus is supposed to be a world without magic, no magic whatsoever. If they can erect this wall, that at least suggests some degree, like very minimalistic, but some degree of magic.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. I'm wondering if the glitter wall was just a formation that required magic, and the reason it failed was it didn't have it. So
Well,
I guess I'm picturing in my mind some kind of phalanx formation that used to be beast mode when they had the magics, but they tried to do it again without the magics, and it did not work.
that's what it said. That's how it said. But like you're thinking that it just didn't turn on. Period. I'm thinking that it turned on, but it was so weak comparatively, and it didn't. And like it just was shattered. Yeah, like upon like its first kind of like interaction with.
Yeah.
I could see it both ways. If it was my way, then that suggests like a certain degree of magic is in Sanctus, like a certain degree of magic is in Sanctus, whereas your way still suggests there's no magic whatsoever. The second kind of like flag is that like she names this thing as a Daga, a like one of the first Kirin. The
Yeah,
like
I'm looking for the word right now.
it's fucking a
Keep
made up.
going.
It's like this big long made up fucking word called Baba Diaga. Um, one of the first Kirins, one that predates the apocalypse, and she's been spending months hunting this thing down. This suggests that like one, how does she know about the? How does she know that this is what this is Baba Diaga? How does she know what a Baba Diaga is? How does she know? Because she's already explained that she's not a scientist. She doesn't like take notes on stuff. She's just like hunting this thing down with this magic orb thing. Uh, so I don't think she's like a historian. I don't think she like. How does she know what this thing is? For one, and
I'm
then
going to assume that might be just a loophole
yeah,
to kind of bring this thing in.
the second thing, like I can take that. The second thing is like she's been here for months hunting this thing down. Like how like comparatively to like from the we're reading this book. This book's already in public, like made and scattered throughout, scattered across the four starter zones. How long have these people been here? We can assume that there's already scout parties and stuff like that. There's small settlements already being made. I can understand quite a few maybe a few months, maybe quite a few months to maybe even a year or two for these settlements start
Well,
like
one thing they did say is like, what's his name? The Vec had still like a tent.
he
She's like
had
disappointed that he
so
still just had.
it said a tent at the end, but it also said his lab when I'll come to my lab, and then like at the end it says his
Yeah, which I assume that she was like hoping for something interest, like some kind of structure, and all it was a tent when he
yeah.
said his lab. Um. So yeah, that I haven't thought that much about was the implications of how long people have been there and um, have started to, yeah, hunt and stuff.
A lot of questions were raised for me, like, yeah. We learn more about Sanctus. This is when like, oh, there was a war that happened in so if you read some of the lore bits in Apocalypse, I'm not saying like in general, but like if you read the lore bits in the Alpha one um test we had a couple months ago, it said like a lot of them suggest like, hey, there was a war that happened in Sanctus. Here we hear more about it. There was a war that over resources and just basic survival stuff, and this is kind of and then you can take kind of the thought process like we talked about earlier of this is the thing that separated all the races, like all the races, and kind of like broke them up into the 8 races that we know and we know now.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Like they didn't have any established infrastructure. They get everyone is dumped in like every race was dumped in one location.
They're escaping
So
for
you
their
have a
lives,
whole
yeah.
bunch of people in one place. A lot of resources required. No infrastructure for those resources. So yeah, people are going to both scatter and possibly fight over them.
Oh, another thing, and this kind of goes back to the elf age thing. Kind of going throw it back to that, but like so. One of the Pyrian lore things we got, I think, 2 years ago. One of the previous things they had given us some Pyrian, not Pyrian, like the original elf race. We had gotten some lore bits about the royal family, being touted to have ruled over that place for 4,000 years. It's only like 2 or 3 generations of royal family now that we know. Now that we know the elven age.
Yeah.
Um,
L's BOP.
elves be. I don't know. We get a slang word for Imperium elves. I it's more world building. Uh, I'm just afraid. Like so with these lore bits that we got, some of them I'm just kind of like afraid that it creates. I love getting these lore bits. They were good. They were done well. They were done extremely well. I love how they did them. I love the kind of reading that Margaret did. The thing. The lore. I love the idea of the books being out in the world. I love every bit of it. I'm just kind of afraid that like some of the information we were given here also creates some writing loopholes.
Oh, like what?
Just like the elven age thing. Like it's scary to give elves long ages because like then like it shortens some events. It shortens some events for the elves at least. And so they've lived through some of the like they've lived through these events, and like we're supposed to have like 2 gigantic diverges in the races. So you have the Empyrean and you have the Piri. I don't know, there's just like a bunch of fantasy storytelling. Like it's you kind of get into like a loophole when you give elves such long lived lifespans. Um, because a lot of the events people oh, that's nothing to an elf. Like an elf can live through that. Like an elf can live through that and still tell stories about it. Then you have like the how long have these people been here kind of thing. I can accept the Baba Yaga kind of like oh, she knows what this thing is. I can kind of accept that. But it's still kind of like a writing loophole kind of thing. Magic in Sanctus. It kind of suggests like maybe that's possibly like, hey, the Empyrean glitter wall formation thing. I don't know. Like it's not like huge. It's not like I'm not like degrading it. I'm just saying like there's a possibility. Like every story has possible writing loopholes, and you're.
I guess to me, the reason why I think there's a martial component was because it's called a formation.
Mm-hmm.
So they formed this glitter wall formation, which probably is normally enhanced with magic.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't able to be enhanced with magic, but still like is a worthwhile, or they thought was still a worthwhile formation to use, and it failed.
It failed. No, I get what you're saying. Like, but the divergence in our kind of thing is like, how did it fail? Did it just like not turn on, or did it turn on and then break almost instantly?
I guess my assumption is they knew it wouldn't turn, like the magic part wasn't going to work, but it still, they thought it had some like use as like they still thought it would do something as a formation, even if it wasn't defensive. Like I imagine the magic part of it enhances the defense. It's probably still like a good defensive formation. Just
Oh, you're thinking
I'm
like,
basically thinking this is a magical phalanx where they still formed the phalanx. It's normally enhanced with magic. They knew it couldn't be enhanced with magic, but they still formed this phalanx to try to do what a phalanx normally does, and the phalanx failed, partially because they're used to the magical defense component.
what I'm actually thinking is like a formation, like you write script, like you write some runes on the
Oh,
ground and it forms like a shield. That's what I'm thinking. Like it was like it was a magical glitter bubble kind of thing.
oh no! The way since they called it formation, and the fact that they knew they didn't have magic, I assumed it was a literal formation of like that troops take.
Yeah,
And
I'm thinking. I get what you're saying now. Of like formation, like the troops are taking. I'm thinking like a formation, like more fantasy, kind of like writing, like you're writing scriptures in a formation kind of thing. Um, and I was also kind of thinking like this is probably early enough in the war to where they're still thinking like, oh, some form of magic. We can still probably use. We can still maybe use magic.
okay, be interesting. We'll ask Steven.
Ask
That's
Steven.
so, yeah. I one thing I wanted to take from this that we haven't talked about is about the. I'm just going to call it the Babadook, just because that's what the word made me think of, is
Babadoo.
the Badaga. It's what
Babadadaga.
Bob Bada Badaga. That is hard for me to say.
Babadadaga.
The Babadook uh is, so there's two things. The second one, I'm actually starting to think. My initial thought was like, if this has something to do with how we die and can be resurrected, as we like shatter into mist and then we can be reformed. I'm The other thing I've been thinking more about is the idea that the Babadook, I'm just calling it that, um, is able to, if this is going to be like some kind of in-game raid, and this is hinting that in order for us to even fight this thing, we have to create this ritual to like stop it from dispersing.
I could totally see that. Like if you're fighting like like, I don't know if it's like a generalized thing, like oh you call like everything that's old and like part of like the essence of Baba Dadaga, or if you call specifically these types of Kirin Baba Dadagas. Um, I could totally see that. You have to like some of these things you have to do special rituals to like make like how you would do with like a ghost if you were like you're not gonna just gonna like be able to like slash at a ghost. Maybe you have to like make it corporeal.
Yeah,
I could totally see that. Maybe like a summoning ritual to like make this like bring out this, like maybe a quest line that brings out these special animals that you have to then like capture or study or hunt or something like that.
yeah. So it was just because we know there was going to be world bosses, and this is like an example of something that you wouldn't be able to fight until you figure out how to stop it from running away.
This thing seems more passive and more like Guardian of the Foresty rather than like a
Yeah,
world boss, kind of like a
I
dragon.
imagine if you force it into a conflict, it can fuck you up with its magics. And because that's the thing, is it just runs away all the time.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm thinking is it'll.
I'm thinking more like Guardian of the Foresty kind of thing. Like it's not gonna fuck with you if you don't fuck with it. Like you don't
Oh yeah.
fuck with its territory.
I don't think it's gonna cause you. You'll probably see it. It'll be cool if you can see it running around. And it'll like disappear, kind of like that one quest we had in Alpha One, where the you followed those images and then
Mm-hmm.
disappear as you got close.
Yep.
It'd be cool if like the Babadook, you could see it, but if you got too close, it'd disappear like that. In order to stop it from disappearing, you'd have to do something special.
For anyone that doesn't know what Stackerson's talking about, in Alpha 1, if you want right out of the first start, like after you got done with the starting quest, like if you go right out, if you just follow the road right outside, you would encounter this aberration. I don't remember, it had a name, I don't remember what the fuck it's called anymore. I'm just going to call it an aberration. That it was inside the crow suit, but it would teleport away and you would get a quest to follow it. And it would just like the further down the road you would go, the more it would just like teleport away from you, and it would eventually lead you to the dragon. Yeah, it would lead you to the volcano, the dragon raid, and it was pretty much your introduction to that area. And if you just completed the quest, you would get a end game really good ring, I think it was.
I don't know if I completed that. I was at a step where it was going to give me a good sword. But yeah, so that's all I had for that.
Yeah, that's all pretty much I have. We went over the 3 lore bits. It opened. It's like I want to say this again. I enjoyed the crap out of them. Like they were really good. I enjoyed the crap out of the entire 24-hour live stream. I love when they do the 24-hour live stream. I enjoy the crap out of how they did the lore bits this year. It was different than last year. So like this year they did, oh, this is a book that's in the game. You can actually like physically pick it up in the game and see it and read it. Last year it was like a reading from an actual book they're writing. Plus we got some lore dumps on King Aatrox in the first like the big raid that's in the world, and like the story of like how the ancients came to this world. Lore dumps every year. Love it every year. We went over all of them. They just like this year brought up some stuff that just I feel has the possibility. I'd have to get some clarification on it, but create some writing loopholes. Just like I think that every fantasy, like everyone that's writing a fantasy story probably falls into, or you could probably nitpick at every MMO story, because MMO stories aren't, like I love Asher Creation lore and I'm loving it so far. I don't think it has like that many problems right now. But like every other MMO story that you've encountered probably has a bunch of like story loopholes that you can like poke at.
Yeah. And it's also like, yeah, I don't know. I try not to do that just because there's like, at some point, there's a lot of ways to just explain those situations. Like with the, why does she know it's a Babadook? Well, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just has encountered Kieran and most Kieran can't do it, but this one can. So
he's assuming it's older than the apocalypse.
So they're all assuming it's older than the apocalypse, and it was like one of the first Kierans. Maybe it's just a very old Kieran. So it's one, and then it's like it's kind of like why 40K lore is awesome, because to some extent a lot of the stuff is from the perspective of a person, and so they might tell you something is what it is, but it can be technically contradicted later on. And it's not because it was written bad, it was just because this person, it's not the writer's fault, it was just it was a story being told by a person. People make mistakes.
I 100% agree with you, and I think that's actually what Asher Creation is very much doing with their lore bit. Like when they write books and when they release lore bits, it's always from the perspective of somebody in the world. One of the very first lore bits they ever released were the Dahlia Diaries, or Dahlia, whatever the fudge that dwarf little girl's name was.
Yeah.
And it was told from this perspective of a character. When they released like more lore bits, when they released more stuff that was from like actual like solid lore bits, like, oh, this is from a book that we're writing, it's from the perspective of somebody. So when they tell stories it's from the perspective of somebody, and I agree with you on that. Um, so that was a 24-hour live stream. Was there anything like anything else that you want to like? They did goals and stuff like that. It's always interesting when they do it. Love the D&D campaign. I wish they would do more.
I had nothing. I just I watched. I donated. By watch, I mean I turned it on and listened. Um,
We're at
but
2:58. The stream's been going on for an hour and 14. Want to get into the theory crafty topic, or do you want to save that for next time?
so I have no commitments today. I can. We normally go over. If we got into this topic, I'd want to go over. So it's on you. Do you want to go over?
We want to do it now, and we want to save it for next time. The question is, like, I'm cool with doing it now. The question is how much we're gonna have to talk about next time.
No. What? Oh, I might be in trouble for next time. Well, no, I won't be out of town. I'll be here.
Next time's the 28th.
It is the 28th. Why did I think it was the 4th? Yeah. Cool beans. Yeah, and I mean, we'll have more stuff to talk about. When's the live stream going to be? Is it going to be
They're
this
doing
week?
it like this week. We are gonna have the live stream to talk about. How much information we get in the live stream? Like that's the question. That's the
We
question.
could also go back over certain things with
BCG. Yeah. Oh yeah. We could if he comes back next week.
comes
Yeah.
in, get his takes on things, discuss it further. I feel like we can milk it. We find ways of talking over all the time.
We do find ways of doing it. Okay, we can do this theory crafty topic. So
Okay. So last week we were kind of talking about gear, and we how you didn't want gear to just be about vertical scaling and stats, as well as you wanted like certain gear to be required for certain things. That kind of led into us talking about how much people scale vertically in leveling. Usually in a lot of games, you can only really have a decent fight with both people and monsters within your level range. Of like, it varies, but it can be like 3 levels, could be 10. I don't know if I've seen a game that 10 levels you can have a decent fight, but I mean, designers can do whatever they want. This is something that has been left over from games where players had less ways to control the outcome of a fight, and it was a way to show you progressing as a character.
just
I don't know where to take this, but basically, I want to argue against the crazy vertical scaling from leveling.
like the idea that like the whole leveling process and progression path, like you need progression in a game, but the progression paths that we have currently in game, like MMO gaming specifically, are an outdated form of progression.
Yeah, it just requiring players like you're already incentivized to level because you usually get skills or talent points or some kind of currency that still increases your player power. But in addition to that, you usually get a lot of health and you do more damage.
Most of the content that you want to do, like, or with the like, just like the funner content in the game, quote unquote funner content in the game, and playing with your friends is in-game content. I considered in-game content. So you're more incentivized to rush through the entire leveling process in games.
Yeah. And it's like that's why we have the concept of in-game. Is it's like there's content that you can only do once you're leveled. It's usually the content that everyone wants to do. And yeah, you have to be like max level to even walk in. And it's just I don't know if it's the best thing for games. This is just my thoughts. I haven't tested anything. I think there's still incentive to level. And I guess one thing I had structured this where I was like, games have like realized this is a problem, and they've done several things to try to do it. Whether it be boosts where they just let you skip the leveling process, or scaling where for PvE content they'll scale people down so it's a reasonable fight and they can like play with their friends, or they'll scale low levels up so that they can compete with other higher level players in PvP.
I think that's more so acknowledging the problem. I think that's more so acknowledging that there is a problem and that
That's what I
actually
mean.
is a problem, rather than actually trying to fix the problem.
Exactly, and that's where I'm at right now. It's like I feel like games are acknowledging are showing the problem, trying to like fix it, and then you also have like issues. And then this is the other thing that I think kind of is addressed by is calling this a problem is systems that try to encourage players to play with low level players. Um,
Like a teacher system, or
like
yeah,
the teacher system where you have its own track of rewards. Uh,
Guild
Instead of
Wars
like creating
2,
this,
where they'll scale you down to the area you're in.
yeah, and it's like to me at that point, like the scaling that you get from leveling is completely devalued because it doesn't matter. It's just based off the zone you're in. So why are you even scaling me up to begin with? Um, so and then I guess like the issues. Sorry, this is very. Just jump in. I'm just kind of ranting.
I am, please be honest.
Leveling required to play with friends. I like, for example, in New World right now, I had a lot of work to do when it first came out, so fell behind. I very early on, even within the first few days, I wasn't able to play with people because they were doing content that was out of my level range, and I mean they still wanted to advance their characters, so they would have to if any of you guys wanted to play with me, you would have to take a hit. Um, and I've played other games where yeah, my friends can't really get into the game. They don't level as fast as us, and we have to basically stop doing. We have to engage in activity that has no benefit to us to even play with them. Um, uh, and then like the issue of just low level content being so easy for high level players. It means like there's only so like instead of you seeing yourself progress and become like better at fighting the content, it's completely obsolete. You can't do it really. You just one shot everything. So you can't have it being mean. You can't have that content be meaningful for high level players. Um,
I don't think I so like. Well, I 100% agree. The leveling system and the leveling form progression is outdated. The problem is we don't have like any game that has tried to do something different. I don't think has been successful. Like, has been successful at it. Either like the method they did wasn't successful, or it wasn't like big enough to generate a large enough population to um stay sufficient, stay alive and sufficient. And then like
I guess I've
I
never seen it be a problem. I mean, MMOs have so many. There's so many features in MMO and like activities that it's hard to like say one thing is what caused the game to fail.
Yeah, it's like you're 100% right. It's hard to say what one thing caused the game to fail, and but like I think so. I think that's where we are currently in the MMO industry. Is like so if you actually look at any of the Kickstarter MMOs that are out right now that everyone has hope for, they all kind of promote themselves as, oh, we want to recapture that feeling you had when you played your very first MMO, and um most of them are just like recreating the old MMOs. Asher Creation has done the same thing to where like it says, "Oh, we want to recapture that feeling," but like I think they're trying to recapture the feel. They're trying to recreate the feeling rather than recreate the actual just recreate the old MMOs. Um, which is why I like it. But Asher Creation still has that leveling process. And I think that's where we are currently in the state of the MMO genre. Is that I think everyone's aware that this is a problem, but no one has a fix for it. And I think the next generation of MMOs, like if someone tried to innovate MMORPGs, that's where they'd probably have to look is the leveling process. That's where the next innovation is.
I agree. I think the next big MMO is going to be one, and I think they'll probably advertise it as such, where it's like it's they're going to find that sweet spot where I hope it exists, where leveling is going to feel impactful, but the advertisement's going to be, join this game and play with your friends. Don't have you tired of leveling to 50 or 60 to yeah.
If you just skip 90% of the game, I like it's that's why the leveling process. That's why the leveling process in games has gotten so lazy over the last 20 years. I would think. I like the story, just like the feel of the leveling process. Why I think it's gotten so lazy is because everyone skips through it, and so you're forced to like focus on quote unquote in-game content. Like you're forced to focus on what the PvP feels like in game, what the ratings like at the in like rating and stuff like that in game, and so like it it brings up two questions. Is like number one, what is the point of the leveling process to begin? Like the point of it is for like a progression system to feel like you've actually achieved something. Like you need progression in a game. Progression keeps people going. Even in game, you need progression. Either it be like gear or something like that. And that's why like every new like every almost in every MMO, every time they bring in a new expansion, it ups like the level requirement or it ups the gear requirement. And that's not a good way of doing it. I don't think that's not a I just don't think it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Period. Like it's not.
Well, and you brought up one thing is because questing's become a means to an end, kind of. I want to say where it's like the purpose of questing isn't to provide an interesting story. It is to help. It is now been. It is now a system that people use to level up to max level, instead of being like a cool story in and of itself. So yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say about that. Whereas just like questing is something that's suffered. I don't know. It's just there's too much power on leveling. You have to do it before you do anything else. Like if you it's not like you can really reasonably progress your gear at low levels because it's not a good use of your time because leveling gives you so much more power. There's no reason to spend time leveling your gear.
You're not leveling your gear. You're not like sticking to a gear. Like you're not like when you're leveling. Not like you're 100% right. Like all aspects of progression, I think, suffer from the level like our current state of leveling. Crafting. When you're at max level, you're probably looking at like, oh, this is my set forever at this point for forever, and I'm just throwing away. Like, there's no point in progressing my crafting tree. My crafting for armor. I'm just getting loot from all these monsters and throwing them out. As like I'm re-equipping what's good for me right now for my level, and then I'm throwing out the old stuff, or I'm dismantling it, or I'm selling it on the auction house. Whatever you need to do. And so like all aspects of progression like suffer because of leveling.
You brought up crafting, but you can't be a gatherer at low level. You have to max out you don't have to, but it is more optimal to level your character all the way up to max and then go back through it. Oh, and like if you're one of those people that can like gather as you go and you're able to keep up that way, that's great. But for people who can't, there's no reason to like go back. There's no reason to stop and try to level gathering, because you have to be some level to stay alive in certain zones. Which I guess I don't know if Ashes will have that issue. Which that kind of is one of the issues, though, is they're supposed to have these like leveling zones. So how does that interact with the leveling? Is it going to be if you progress a node in a low level zone, we're supposed to like eventually get the dragon and all that stuff, but is it the rest of the zone going to be kind of irrelevant for the people around it?
You got like the area, so the world evolves with the node progression, and so like you have like as the node levels up, so the areas around the node level up, and like eventually like at that the resources in the world are scarce. Like you'll mine them out and then they'll disappear and then they'll reappear somewhere else, and like depending on where that is, it could be like an extremely high level zone that you like. Also depending on like the mob AI. If it's dumb mob AI, then you can just kind of like sneak in there, mine what you need, and sneak out. Or if it's smart AI, you're not going in there if you're not the appropriate level. I want to like.
And then I guess this also another issue with the node. So this will be fine as we probably on launch, as we like are leveling up nodes are leveling up with us, but at max level, as new people come in, they're not gonna be able to participate in like node events that are intended for max level players at all. They'll just get one shot, which means unless they remove the death penalty, they're gonna be, which is another thing worth bringing up in here. They're gonna suffer a death penalty for trying to defend their node when they like are so. I mean, it's not like they're so should be able to stand a good chance, but
If it's
especially like I guess it depends on how the scaling works because if it's like you have to be within like 10 or 5 levels of max level to even compete in those events, then it's going to like feel bad for anyone. And they want to have this drawn out leveling process, which is fine, but you're just making out like this drawn out requirement for people to play the game.
I so with Ashes Creation, I like people I ask about the leveling process in Ashes Creation. I think that like if it works how they say it's gonna work, then you're gonna have stop gaps. You're gonna have it to where
For us, when we first start the game, there'll be
when we
stop
yeah,
gaps.
there'll be stop gaps when we first start the game. It's debatable whether like a year down the line, if Metropolis stay Metropolis like they're stopgap but like so if you're I'm here day one and you're trying to like and you're like oh I gotta stay up 24 hours I gotta stay up 72 hours I gotta stay up an entire week to like level with my friends, then if it works the way they should, then they're like you're gonna have stop gaps inside like the node leveling progression to where oh, I can as there's catch up mechanics to where like, oh, the nodes not progress like people got to level up the nodes, so I have time to catch up to people that are already there. And then when it levels up, everyone's doing that race again to get to the next level, and then like you're stuck with where the node is and you have to level the node again.
But that's also just as I said at launch, where it's just going to be, which that's going to be fun at launch and nice for some. But after launch, it's yeah, you need to grind up all 50 levels to start playing with people.
Yeah.
And and that's I kind of think is a problem. Um, I mean, there's obviously the PvP issues with the level scaling, where high level players can sometimes just like, I mean, that's the thing that kind of sucks about this conversation is we have no frame of. I'm just kind of basing off other games, but in some games it's zero chance for a low level player to even compete with a high level player. They're being one shot. It's not fun for them. Yes, it's de-incentivized by the corruption system, but it's still something that's allowed that I don't think needs to be allowed.
So that's part of the progression. That's part of the progression thing is like so like that's extremely hard. Like even if you took away the leveling process, you want the person that's been playing 700 hours to feel
They
like
should have better gear.
yeah, they should
They
have
should have more skills.
yes.
And that's what they got from leveling is they got the skills, maybe they have some stats that went up. They do have an advantage. And to be real, like a low level player should not really stand much of a chance against a high level player, especially one on one. One thing I would like is if that power gap is shrunk, one on one they still have no chance, but 2 or 3v1 in those situations where a high level player comes into an area where there's low level players, you don't need another high level player necessary to come help you. You can band together and fight them off.
If
It's
you
also this is hard to talk about because I feel like I think about it in the idea of 1 versus 50, but realistically it's pretty quick to get to like that mid-level range of 20, and like a 20 or 30 level person, it'd be nice if they stood some chance against a decent chance against a level 50.
so here's my thing like we can argue like I don't want to try to argue like oh this would be the better system because like I don't think we could find a balanced just like a balanced good system either. Like no one's found it in that's what I'm saying is like the next innovation for MMOs is fine is trying like at least trying to find a new way of progression. The best one I could probably think of that I like the most is probably Monster Hunter. Where it's like your skill is your skill. Items are like you know what you bring on hunts, you know what like all that stuff. And then, like, yes, gear gets better and makes fights easier. And I believe you can't go on more advanced hunts until you've progressed to that point. So you can't like 100% go on fights with your friends. But like I don't know, the feel of the progression in Monster Hunters just feels better. I guess the closest thing I can think of to a better system than the leveling system we currently have.
Yeah. Well, so my thing I kind of just want is just no scaling from levels. Just start there.
Just get rid of
Maybe
levels.
give some stat. Just your level gives you skill points.
I don't even want levels. I do not like I. So if I was gonna do
it's adventuring class. That's what I'm thinking.
If I was gonna do skill, I don't even want like adventuring class like level. I don't want levels. If I was gonna do something, I would probably want like you've gone like you've learned this thing. Like you've like I don't like it's like explaining it would probably sound too much like levels.
So I don't want anything too crazy. Like I don't want to like completely change things, or at least right now. I would just want levels. You can have levels. Levels are something people are comfy with. Just don't tie it. Don't give people free stats for it. You can maybe still you'd probably still want to tie it to gear.
Like you
like
can't wear certain things without being said level.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like it also works more with Ashes because they have these different progression systems. And to have one progression system drastically affect your character's power, I don't like. Or I don't think I like. It's one of those things where I haven't tested myself. It's something I've been thinking about and I've just noticed in games.
So I could totally understand having the level requirement for gear because like I'm just gonna sell this gear that's like overpowered to like this lower level character like maybe RMT it or like whatever you're gonna do. I could understand doing that. Well, that's why this argument's so hard is because like there's not gonna be a system. We're not gonna come up with a system that just works. I much prefer like say the Monster Hunter form of kind of thing to where like the progression is like your gear just gets like with your progression in gear progression in terms of gear is like you've hunted that out and you've gathered the resources to build it up. Granted, that also like that incentivizes more so I'm doing everything myself. Like I'm hunting with a small party of friends, we're having fun, rather than the MMO
Yeah, I think
aspect
you have
of
to kind of remember that
we're doing this for an MMO, and
where it's not a solo, and like ideally, you could bring lower level players with you to higher level things if that's what they want to do.
You do that in other games too. Like if you want to speed, like this is the problem. Like,
well, I
too.
don't want.
Like,
I don't
you
want
want
it
to
to be
speed level. You want to speed level. You want to speed level somebody. Take them to a higher level zone. Like have the XP actually do something. Like that's how you speed level. Like in MMOs, we just try to find every way possible to speed through the leveling process. And games have gotten to the point where like, oh, you want to get past that leveling process? Buy this thing from the shop. Spend real money to skip 90% of our game.
Yes, and yeah, I mean that's where I'm at. Where it's like people are skipping it because it's required, and yes, you need some leveling, like you would need some gear, but to like, if you're going to have that long, forced, drawn-out process of XP gain, I feel like you need to lighten up on what it's required for. Because also, like, I guess one thing that's going to get really frustrating early on is negative XP. If you need to level to max level to participate in the game, and then you die and you have this thing called negative XP that is going to, which we haven't seen how it'll affect you at we haven't actually seen it balance. but it's just going to be incredibly frustrating. Where it's like, oh, I need a level to play the game, and oh, if I die while I'm trying to play the game, it's going to make it even longer for me to be able to play the game.
That's why I don't think there's gonna be a lot of like PvP or like PKing. Like if you're PKing at the very beginning of the game in Ashes Creation, you're doing it to be a dick. Like you're doing it to be a
And
troll.
yeah, it's not going to be a lot of it. It's going to
You're
just be like some people, but you don't just
all
die from PKing.
all hardcore progression. Oh yeah, I know, but like all hardcore progression people are going to be like, oh, if I fight this person, I'm gonna, like I have a chance of like getting negative experience. I'm not gonna want to fight this. I'm not gonna want to PvP because I'm trying to get to end game. If I'm max level, then and then I PvP and I get negative levels. Whatever the penalty is there, I can try to rectify. But if it's gonna fuck up my progression, then I don't want to do. I don't want to do. I don't want to take part in it. That's what
Yeah.
the kind of like more hardcore people are gonna think.
Well, no, it's just like that's the hardcore mentality, where it's just like power level. And I think even if you lessen its requirement, there's going to
It's
still be people who do it. It's also not going to just be
even with
like,
like the casual mentality. It's like, oh, I want to play with my friends. My friends are all max level. My friends are all getting to max level. I need to level to the pro. I need to go through all this leveling to and like so that could actually be a deterrent from somebody. Is like from playing the game. Is like, oh, I have to go through this long ass leveling process to be able to play with my friends. And so
yeah,
like
no, that's where I'm at right now. That's why I'm not playing New World, is because I'm like, I know what I have to climb to get able to play with you guys. And it's like, it's something I'll do, but I'm procrastinating.
that I
Um,
don't know if you've seen the charts and stuff. People have been making charts like the 1 through 30 is where you have fun in the game, and then like after 30 is like where the burnout starts to happen. And I think it's like 45 through 50, 60 that you start that you just like feel like it's a job.
yeah. Well, like, I guess, and for me, like, an early on an experience, I didn't do the thing where I took time off. So I log on. Anyone who was already on, I was like not able to play with them because they were grinding like the 30 zones and I was like 20. So I I don't think this is going to make it so it's like we need people for a raid and pugs are just going to be like, yeah, let's take a level 10. But especially in those social areas like in guild, I think there would be people who would have been like, oh, I don't actually have to completely babysit you in these zones. You can contribute in some way. Um, Come along.
This is where like I'm like, oh my, like we're not gonna figure out something that works, like, and we can just take point out where the flaws are in the system, because like I still want hardcore rating to be hardcore rating. Like you're gonna take people that like not hardcore like, oh my god, I'm elitist as fuck, but like hard as in like this rate is a challenge, or I'm
I
progressing,
don't
and
think
you can
that's
make a
dependent
price.
on. But why does that? The challenge should be in the mechanics,
And that
and
challenge should be
like
in the
you could
mechanics.
have if you could still have those vertical progression requirements
That's
in
why
there.
I just want to get done. That's why I don't want leveling to be like so. Like it should be like Witcher 3. Like if you're playing Witcher on hard mode, you're figuring out what the monster's weak to, and you're using that more. If you're playing Monster Hunter, you know what to bring with you on a hunt and stuff like that. I want more of that kind of mentality. Like I'm like not like the actual progression path in those games. Just like more of the mentality of the like I have to know the mechanics. I have to know what to bring for these things to do like to actually be able to do this kind of like this fight instead of my level is what's keeping me from doing these things. Like I said, you have to have progression in a game. Like
Yeah.
progression is super important. It's just like the leveling process.
And still have like the way I see it, you can still have progression, still give them their abilities. That's still a vertical scale, but it's just not like, oh, I breathed on you, you die, or you get breathed on by something too high level and you die. It's more leveled out. So, and which also to me feels like you can actually feel yourself progressing more because you can actually be like you'd ideally be fighting similar mobs or similar powered mobs more often. And be able to see yourself perform better against them instead of every time you level, you fight a new mob that is relatively the same to you.
I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
said, we're not gonna figure out the
No,
best like the system.
I'm just saying a gripe.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Is like we're only gonna be able to point out the flaws in the current system, and that's why I keep saying like the next innovation in MMOs. Like if you like, we're not seeing a whole lot of innovation. Like you're not gonna see a whole lot of innovations in anything anymore. Like people have already thought of like most of the stuff. But like, the next innovation, the thing that's gonna bring actual life back to the MMORPG genre, I think, is going to be the is going to be innovating the progression system. Like that's gonna be the major innovation that you're gonna be able to see, and that's gonna be like be the thing that brings life back into the actual genre. That's where we are currently. Like, I think everyone knows this. I think everyone is not happy. I don't think everyone knows this, but I think everyone's not happy with the current progression system that we have, like the current progression systems we
Well, current
have.
level, I think people are fine with things like gear progression, and
It
stuff like that.
depends. It depends. Like because like you're more hardcore people now. Like like over the year. Like, that's why like the whole pitch that like MMO like Kickstarter MMOs doesn't work really is because like their whole pitch is like, oh, we're gonna recapture that feeling that you had when you first played MMOs. Number one, like when you first played it, like when it was first like started with like that feeling you're trying to capture, you can't capture for long because like the internet's a thing now, and every bit of information, like when you were actually playing an MMO, you were like studying the MMO, you were trying to learn the MMO. Now you can just go online and find a guide that tells you like find builds, find guides that tell you how to do everything. You can't capture that feeling for very long. Number two, people's taste in MMOs have changed. Beforehand, like rating still a thing. I love rating. Rating still a thing. You have progression raid groups all over the place. But I would definitely say that the current players of like gamers are more PvP oriented than they are PvE oriented, like they were back then. I would say.
I'm not gonna make any assertions of that, but I mean, I at least want to say that I don't, since we haven't really had a good PvP MMO, there's some people looking for that.
I think because we haven't had a good MMO in a long time, most people have migrated towards shooter games, towards MOBAs. Like most games that we've had release in the last 20, 30 years have been
The
PvP
gaming
oriented.
market as a whole, yes,
Yeah.
PvP games are more popular than PvE ones, I would say.
Yeah, and so you still have a niche for the PvP game. Like I'm not gonna say a niche either. You still have a market for the PvP. Like people still enjoy a good story. People still enjoy like all
Yeah,
this stuff. Lore horrors like me inside MMOs are more rare nowadays. I definitely think MMO like the MMO game like gamers in general are more PvP oriented, and that has migrated into the mindset of what people are looking for when they're looking for a MMORPG. Um, you still have RPers, you still have lore, you have people that are interested in a good story, you still have people that play single player games. Like you still have that
yeah.
audience.
Oh yeah, no audience is done, is gone. Like that, there's audience for everything.
But I definitely think that in turn, like the PvP crowd is definitely bigger, and more what you're looking for, and so they care less. Like they care even less for going through that story process. They're more
I
so
don't know. I want to contest. My thing is I can't enjoy the story because I need a level so I can play with people. I don't have that
100%.
much, like, and that's my problem. It's like I can't enjoy the story because I need to progress, and especially with leveling where it's like you're just gated out of stuff.
All
So
these
you need,
interesting little fucking lore bits that are scattered, all these little notes and stuff that are scattered around the world that you can fucking like see and read. You're not gonna stop and read that stuff because you have to like just ignore it and continue on with your leveling process.
yeah, it's like I don't, yeah, it's like, yeah, I could enjoy those stuff at high level once I'm able to do the activities I need to do at high level, and then can, with my free time, do other things and enjoy those stories. But if leveling is a requirement, to play the game, then I can't waste time. Like I'm in a situation where my time is tight. So if I want to be somewhat hardcore in a game, I have to be optimal. And being optimal means skipping stories when it comes to leveling.
That's why. So so that what you just explained is the exact same kind of like argument people give for why pay to win is okay, because we're all adults now. The average MMO player has grown up. You still have kids that play games like all the place, but like the people that are like want that old school feeling that most of the Kickstarter games are trying to recapture, I would say is like a bunch of the older crowd, like a bunch of like people that have gone to like are in college or gone to college or trying to recapture trying to not recapture, but people that have like you said, everyone has a job now. You have a life, and so you can't like dedicate as much time to going through that leveling process as someone that can take off like a week or something like that. Like you have to spend time with your family and stuff. And so the argument is like, I'm just gonna buy a boost to 60. I'm gonna buy this gear so I can play with people around. I'm gonna buy my progression instead of actually progressing the game.
Yeah.
And that's been the argument for why RMT pay to win and like all the like loot boxes to be relevant within the last couple of years. Like people were more okay with loot boxes and pay to win because like most people that were arguing for them, I'm a working adult. I can't spend my forever on this thing.
Yeah.
It's
and I think it's the issue with the progression is the requirement is to play the game. Which is tricky because that's what progression is supposed to reward you. Is it supposed to reward you with power, and the reason why you can't play the game is you don't have enough power. So I guess I hope there's a way you can curve that power so that I can still play the game without just
You're right. I that's where we kind of are is like I can't play
I
the
guess
game
that's the
with
paradox of the situation.
very
I
much
just
so. Extremely.
I just think that there's a way you can curve the power gains so that and like that's the thing is one of the ideas is capturing is the that idea of that person who's like higher level than you that has like epic gear. And it's like I don't know.
I'm
It's hard
trying
to
to mute my
appreciate
mic
when
before I
it's just like,
sneeze.
yeah, I'll be there, just let me play.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and you chose the right word for it. That's the paradox of the situation. Like you're 100% right.
So I for example in Ashes, if you remove just the vertical scale, which there wasn't even that much vertical scaling, what we saw, but still, if you just simmer down that vertical scaling so that it's the scaling you got from leveling doesn't play the largest role in a combat, at least the scaling from leveling, because you're also going to have better gear. And on leveling, you also get abilities, which is going to vertically scale you more. But I feel like there's an opportunity cost with abilities where it's do you auto attack or do you use a skill? And ideally, there's skills should always be better, I guess, but there's still some comparability there. But I don't know.
The only system I saw like systems that I can think of that I would like I kind of want are so alien that like they're number one they're hard to explain, and when I think about like how I would explain them, they don't sound like something that anyone would like a very niche person like you'd have to be a kind of like a weeb to like get or like really enjoy.
Like what are you thinking?
Huh. Like so like I really liked in like Guild Wars 1, you had to like you didn't just get skills. You had to go to a skill trainer and you had to get skills that way. You had to get skills that way. I really kind of like that. If Magic's not in Sanctus, I wanna like pick an. I want you to be like an adventurer. Like you're coming through the gateway with your backpack on. You have all your stuff. You haven't picked your class yet. You've designed your race. You've designed your character. You've designed your race. You know the racials. You know the racials you want. You have the racials you want. You kind of have an idea of what class you want to play. You know what you like. You've designed your character. You know what you want to play, but you haven't picked your class yet. That's your first quest: is picking your class and getting your skills.
Okay.
And that's just for Ashes. Like how I would probably do it. How I would probably like to see it for Ashes. In terms of like a different kind of game, maybe like because everyone's trying to get rid of classes. Like everyone's trying to get rid of classes right now too. That's one thing that I've noticed in MMORPGs. Everyone's trying like people don't want to do the Holy Trinity anymore. Holy Trinity like tanks don't do so great in open world PvP. Open world Zerg PvP, tanks are ignored. Everyone's a DPS. Everyone's trying to get rid of everyone's trying to get rid of tanks. Like I don't know if that's where the innovation I want to see direction wise is in terms of like getting rid of classes. I could definitely see it. Like, you can make it work. I don't like any of the ways people have been doing it. Like, I'm not a big fan of any of the ways people have been doing it so far. New World doesn't have it to where you level up. Actually, what I would like to see from New World is what I would have liked to see if someone makes a game, if someone like likes New World and wants to make an MMO, like the next like one up New World, instead of just have it to like what New World does is like you level up. You don't level up a class, you level up individual weapons, and that's kind of like where you go with that. And you put stats, and the weapons go off the stats. Have each individual weapon be almost like a class. Like have them have a resource requirement or a gimmick that they do instead of just like 3 skills and they all pretty much feel the same or similar. Have them all have like a gimmick or like a resource they consume or something like that. Lost Ark does something like really good to where like you have the 5 base classes, and then each of those like splinter off into like they're like several different classes, and each one like thematically is like can be similar, but each one has like a different way of like each one individually has a different way of generating their like special abilities, resource requirements, like all that kind of stuff. I would kind of like see a marriage of those two systems.
Okay. Where you kind of like,
and I'm not arguing this for like Ashes creation. I'm just like arguing like
in general, like in an MMO.
Not like the MMO, like oh my god, this is the MMO, but like I would like to see that from an MMO. I think if a game took New World's atmosphere, like New World, like one thing that New World does the best is just the atmosphere. You go out like sound, the feeling. You go out, chop down trees. You go out, pick mine some rocks or ore. You hear the chopping echoing throughout the forest. You hear the bang of each of the things, like bang of the pick hitting the ore, and it crackles throughout the air. The atmosphere of New World is what they absolutely narrow down, and why people enjoy the 1 through 30 process. Why people enjoy New World, I think, is because of the atmosphere. Every other aspect of that game, I do not think people are enjoying right now, just because of the bugs and all that stuff. Like people can enjoy like different aspects of the game. I like, but it's the atmosphere that I think New World does over every other game. And why people love it so much. If you marry if you marry their weapon system with like I think the Lost Ark kind of like class system, or not like a perfect fucking thing, but like how I've explained it to where like each weapon feels like its own individual class, kind of, then I think you would have a substantially better game. Or a good game.
Okay. Do you think people should only specialize in one weapon or 2?
I think you can specialize in 2. So keep the stat kind of scaling, I think, Like, have it still scale off of some stuff. I would like to see more diversity in the stats because right now it's like put all your stats in this thing, like put all your stats in this thing, like not like a whole like
It's kind of
mixing.
interesting what you can do with the hybrid stats, but yeah, it kind of sucks. Like strength build, just put all your stats in strength. There's no like
You're generally
variety.
trying to get the perks from one stat or another, and like you're putting all your stats into this thing and like getting the rest of
I
your
wish it
stats
was just more
from
focused
gear.
around the perks. I wish it was. I wish there was less vertical scaling from stats, and it was more just about those perks.
You're
Or I
one
mean, those
hundred.
certain
You're one
those
hundred
perks
percent
are
right.
good for certain builds, but it's like
I
it'd be
probably
nice if I could. Sorry, I keep on cutting you off. Go on.
no. I think I was cutting you off more. I think
Oh, I was just saying it would just be nice to like not be completely gimped using like a mage weapon with like a strength build.
yeah, you're right. I think instead of the stat allocation, instead you'd have perk points, and you'd more distribute them to like a perk tree rather than just like kind of how they have their weapon trees right now, but instead of the weapon thing that they currently have, do something different for that, completely different for that in terms of like making it its own class, and instead have like this perk tree or something like that. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It would just be nice to have more variety of option because it's like as a strength user, I've kind of tried to, use Ice Gauntlet, but use it for its CC components, which I think people have made a build out of that. Um, but it kind of hamstrings you, and I don't know if it's necessary into certain weapons.
Yeah,
Which I mean, it's kind of cool to have some of that guidance, but it'd be nice if it was more like vertically you're fine, but well, I guess there's the problem with the life staff, where I mean its scaling was a little wonky early on, and you had people in like strength builds using life staff and being unkillable. But maybe that's also just an issue with life staff to begin with.
that's just an issue with the balancing. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't like life staff. Life staff's getting a lot of nerfs right lately, and the people that are main life staffs are, I guess, feeling attacked. Really, like really. A lot of people just don't want life staff in the game. I've heard that. I've heard a lot of complaints that like just take magic out of the game. Just like the magic weapons out of the game, because the ice gauntlet was you get kind of too much for there for a while, and the life staff like had a lot of things going for it as well. Um, but lately they've been getting a lot of nerfs, and a lot of people like that are doing magic oriented stuff kind of feel like just feel attacked.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of the magic stuff in the game. I guess we're going off topic.
No,
I feel like it adds more diversity to the
yeah,
game.
I'm not one of the people that are arguing that. I'm just saying like that's kind of what the arguments I'm hearing from those two sides. But we're talking about New World too much inside an Ashes Creation podcast. I was just using New World as an example for the kind of mechanics that they do well, and I like arguing for the progression system that we were talking about, and then it kind of moved over to like the kind of systems that I see other games do that I think would work well in an MMO. Uh, I'm not saying new Ashes Creation to take all this random stuff.
Yeah. I just want to gripe that I would like it to be less progression across levels
Yeah,
and leveling not be necessarily the end all be all. I guess in my mind, it would be perfect if you can get to 20 and technically being helped at helping people out that are like 50. You wouldn't be the best, but like maybe and then well then there's the other side of it. Well, it would be nice if people who are 50 have reasons to come down and do the lower level content, whether it be like because they're I mean they've talked about it, and usually that's a good way to build a resource system where you want the lower level resources to be necessary for the higher level ones. um, kind of like I think the most popular example is Albion, where I'm pretty sure you need like low level, like you need to start with 10, and then if you want to make iron, you need 10 ingots and then
New
some
World does
iron.
the same
Or
thing, and like it's kind of like there's a whole bunch of arguments about how their economy fucking works, and like how like the like how good of a system that actually is. Like, there's a lot of like arguments that going on. I
Well,
don't.
it gets weird because they switched up the progression system. It's ideal for because you're supposed to be in these higher level zones that are given this higher level resources, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having people go and do lower level content. But
I yeah.
because you
It's
want the well, it's also good for new players. You don't want it to be like a year in and oh yeah, no one gives a shit about your level one, your tier one resource because it's not needed once you're max level.
so I could go off on a little gigantic list of ways that like New World can improve. I could make not easy improve. I'm not saying like this stuff, like, but like could have done some things that would have made the game more interesting. I have a gigantic list of improvements. Not easy improvements. I'm not gonna say that because it still would have taken some time to develop those things. So on and so forth. But um um the yeah, I just don't think leveling progression needs to be in games anymore. You don't like you just said. When you're a low level person, you're trying to get to your high level person, you're trying to get to your high level people, or you're even discouraged to play the game because you're like, oh, I have to do all this stuff to be able to get my high level people, and like the high level people aren't encouraged to go back and play through those low level zones. So you have a bunch of zones, like you have a bunch of people that feel like they're left out because they're like, oh, I don't feel like I need to go back and play with my friends, or like I'm discouraged from playing with my friends. I'm not benefiting from it in any way, shape, or form, and like those zones don't reward me for anything. There's no reason for high level people to go back to those zones. They're not used at people level. Low level people just want to like, and like when you're starting out, when the game is first starting out, you're just burning through those areas. Like you're just trying to zoom through that leveling process as fast as possible with the in-game content. That's the
Yeah.
leveling process. So, like if you're actually playing the game, and so the leveling process as a whole just doesn't feel like it has a point anymore. Leveling doesn't feel like it has a purpose anymore. And like later on, like months or to years after the game is released, all the company does is try to sell you ways to skip that leveling process. Here's free level 60 boost. Here's potions that speed up the leveling process. Here's stuff to make us money to like ignore all the things that you think are boring about our game. And like I don't think I don't
And well, they don't want to go down that route, and they're going to get in a trap. Every MMO I know of does ESO do it? I don't actually know if ESO does it, but they they sell these boosts, and it's like they don't want to be pay to win. That is their biggest thing. They've always said they're either going to have to nerf leveling or um, go against that word, and it's like I feel like you just need to not make leveling such an essential part of the game. Like it needs to be rewarding. You need to get skills, but
I would just get rid of leveling. Get rid of the level thing.
I get leveling, and I think it's a good way to like give people a goal. It's something to work towards, and I'd like it to stay as such. I mean, I think it also makes sense. It's like as a crafter, you level up your craft. I mean, I guess you were arguing against this because you didn't like that as a crafter you had to grind all this low level crap that you
No,
don't
that's
need.
not what I wasn't arguing that.
Oh, okay. But like it makes sense that like as you level, you'd get more skills. But it's like you don't need to become freaking Goku in the process.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. That's the paradox here. Is like progression is important. You have to have progression in the game, and but at the same time, the leveling process, like leveling as a progression system, I think is outdated and no longer no longer serves a like the purpose it's meant to be. It's meant to serve. It's more a hindrance to the players, and like you
It's more
said,
like a recognizable system.
eventually games will sell like it's an understandable like I am 100% against or pay to win, but and like XP potions are pay to win, especially a year after like if, as a catch up mechanic a year down the line they're pay to win. They're like, but they're an understandable degree of pay to win. Uh, but I'm still but because they're pay to win I still have to be against them. Um, if I'm gonna argue against pay to win, I cannot be on the side of XP potions and stuff like that. Even though that I would consider them an understandable, like to a certain degree understandable after a year or two of the game's lifespan. Or even months after the game's lifespan, like after the day one people have progressed to this point in time. Like after your first expansion, you're probably gonna like be selling XP pots or level boost to get people to play that new content because that's what people are coming to the game for.
Yeah, and I don't know. It'd be nice if they didn't have to.
Yeah, they
It'd be
don't like.
nice if it, or like there should. I get that there'll probably be some minimal requirement. Like my idea is you just remove the scaling on leveling, so you'd still want your character to have some skills. So you'd still spend some time leveling to like 10, but it's going to be like that minimal requirement over. Oh, you must be max level to even do anything.
I think at this point we're beating it. I think if we spent like an hour.
We've beaten it, yeah.
Yeah, I
We've
think we're
gone
beating a
circles.
dead horse. I think we've gone back and forth on like what the problem is, what we would like to see for like an hour now. We've been going for 2 hours and 9 minutes. We're almost at 4 o'clock on my time. We will. I guess we'll end it here unless you have.
Oh no, I'm down. Yeah, you're right. We've been kind of going in circles.
Next podcast is the 28th. It should be after there should be a live stream this week at some point. So hopefully we'll have something interesting to talk about next time. Hopefully BCG is back with us. We don't have one next week, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, I know BCG's fans are German. I don't know if they have any kind of holiday over the November period over in Germany. But here in the States, we got Thanksgiving going on next week. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Is it next week? No, it's 2 weeks. You scared me.
2 weeks. I consider Sunday the first day of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, not this week. Next week is Thanksgiving. So yeah, next week Thanksgiving. Have a nice day, everybody.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Hoja.
Shit is over.